Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out and began to glean in the fields behind the harvesters. What does glean mean? Why isn't she being judged as a thief for going into somebody else's field? You can find these things out by looking into the Bible and understanding it. And sometimes you might have to read it 2 or 3 more times. But if you look these words up and you do a study, you will see how this points to a much greater picture in God's redemptive plan. As it turned out, she found herself working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Why is that important? He's from the same clan as her. Read your Bible. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you." "The Lord bless you," they called back. Now I'd like to stop and I'd just like to interject something. Isn't that wonderful that they greet each other in the name of the Lord? Wouldn't it be a lot better if we all did that around here every day? You know, when I see somebody at the grocery store and I'm buying something, I always say that, "The Lord bless you," rather than "see you later." It's just something that we ought to do as a courtesy, invoke the Lord's blessing on people. Boaz asked the foreman of his harvesters, "Whose young woman is that?" The foreman replied, "She is the Moabitess who came back from Moab with Naomi." She said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters." She went into the field and has worked steadily from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter. Why is her working steadily all day in the heat important? The Bible does interpret that if you look closely. Please read your Bible and think about these things. So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go glean in another field and don't go away from here." Why doesn't he throw her in jail for stealing his grain? The answer is in the Bible. "Stay here with my servant girls. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the girls. I have told the men not to touch you. And whenever you are thirsty, go get a drink from the water jars the men have filled." Why is that important, that the water jars are there and that she can drink from at any time? Read your Bible. Think on it and you will understand. At this she bowed down with her face to the ground. Why did she bow? Is that a custom? Is that something, that shows obedience or subservience? Read your Bible. She exclaimed, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" Why would she mention that she is a foreigner rather than, hiding that or something? It's an important part of redemptive history. It's explained in the Bible. Understand it. Read your Bible. Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in your homeland and came to live with the people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." What does it mean, under his wings? Is that something that's found elsewhere in the Bible? I bet you it is. "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord," she said. "You have given me comfort and have spoken kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servant girls." What does that picture when she says, "I don't have the standing of one of your servant girls"? If you read your Bible and look it through, you will understand that better. You understand it fully, actually. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar." And she sat down with the harvesters. He offered her some roasted grain. She's being invited to eat with the harvesters. Is that important? Does that picture something that maybe Jesus did? My guess is yes. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men. "Even if she gathers among the sheaves, don't embarrass her. Rather, pull out some stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her." He's actually pulling out some of the standing grain and leaving it for this woman. How does that picture something in human history? Think about it. The Bible will explain it if you think on it. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered. Why until evening? Was she just a hard worker? Did she not have enough to take home to her mother-in-law? Or does it picture something greater that is included in the Bible, working until evening? Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to an ephah. An ephah is a certain measurement. You'll find the weights in most Bibles, but it is mentioned elsewhere in the Bible, and you can determine kind of what an ephah is by reading your Bible. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough. She saved some for her mother-in-law and gave it to her when she got home. What does that picture? Does that picture something, or is it just a comment that's not necessary in the Bible? I bet you it has a meaning. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one at whose place she had been working. "The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz," she said. "The Lord bless him," Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. "Has he not stopped showing his kindness to the living and the dead?" why would she say the living and the dead? I mean, her family is dead, but does that have a greater picture in redemptive history, mentioning dead people? I'll bet you it does. She added, that man is our close relative. He is one of our kinsman redeemers. My goodness, what is a kinsman redeemer? I've never heard that term. Maybe I can find out the answer if I read my Bible. Well, yes, you can. The kinsman redeemer is mentioned in there, and it is a very significant picture of something happening in redemptive history. So understand and know who your kinsman redeemer is. Then Ruth the Moabitess said, he even said to me, stay with my workers until they finish harvesting all my grain. Wow, that must have some significance. I even underlined it in my Bible. It must have real meaning. Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it will be good for you, my daughter, to go with his girls, because in someone else's field you might be harmed. Why would that particular verse be in the Bible, that you might be harmed in somebody else's field? Once again, I have a feeling, a sneaky suspicion, that that's in there for a reason. So Ruth stayed close to the servant girls of Boaz to glean until the barley and the wheat harvests were finished, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Oh boy, every single word of this has something to do with redemptive history, and if you are willing to look, you would be amazed, absolutely amazed. But it takes study, it takes effort, and when you read this and you see Jesus on these pages, you couldn't believe it. I'm telling you, you would be floored at the pictures of Christ that I've gotten only in the first 2 chapters. Let's go to chapter 3. One day Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, should I not try to find a home for you where you will be well provided for? Is not Boaz, whose servant girls you have been, a kinsman of ours? Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash and perfume yourself and put on your best clothes. Is that only there for Ruth's sake, or is there something about us that has significance for in the presence of Jesus? My guess is the second. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor, as did her husband, and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. The far end of the grain pile. I wonder if that has meaning. You know, I'm not really sure personally, but I bet you it does. I've never really thought about it until right now. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. What does it mean she uncovered his feet? And why did she lay down at his feet? I'll bet you that the Bible answers that. In the middle of the night, something startled the man, and he turned and discovered a woman lying at his feet. Who are you? He asked. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer. Wow, she's asking him to do something, and I'll bet you about $1 zillion that if you look in your Bible and you read it, you will find out why she said those things she said. The Lord bless you, my daughter, he replied. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All my fellow townsmen know that you are a woman of noble character. Do you know that a woman of noble character is mentioned elsewhere in the Bible? I'll bet you if you check the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, you would see what a woman of noble character is like. And I'll bet you $1 million if you know my wife Hideko, you will see my wife Hideko when you read Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 through, let's see here, 32, I believe it is. 31, I'm sorry. Although it is true that I am near of kin, there is a kinsman redeemer nearer than I. This is Boaz speaking to Naomi, and I'll bet you that there is a huge, huge meaning behind what he just said. Something so important that if you don't get it right in redemptive history, then your eternal destiny may be not as secure as you think. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to redeem, good, let him redeem. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized, and he said, don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Also, he said, bring me the shawl where you were wearing and hold it out. When she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley. Why 6 measures? What is the significance of that? And put it on her. Then he went back to town. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.